I'm Curtis Hicks with Uneeda. It's my pleasure today to tell you a little bit about our 1/2 inch white sponges. This is what they look like. Our white sponges is a white aluminum oxide grain, and the unique thing about white aluminum oxide is that it means it's more friable, which means that that grain cracks and resharpens at a much quicker rate than, say, a standard brown aluminum oxide. What that would mean to you is a quicker cut and a softer finish. So it's white aluminum oxide grain coated to a very open foam. So when you have a very open foam, it's very collapsible. With very little pressure, I'm able to squeeze this all the way flat. Now, the one characteristic of that people like about having a very collapsible foam is that you can bend this and it's very flexible, get you in almost any type of profile. It's a very popular sponge for sanding profiles. Just keep in mind the one thing about a very collapsible foam, as opposed to a denser, harder foam like you would see on a 1-inch block and the 5mm sponges, is that as it collapses, you're also losing cut because that grain is receding more. So these will be the least aggressive of the three types of sponges on the market, between 1 inch, 3/16, and then the 1/2 inch sponge. This one will be the least aggressive, but it is a very popular product. The one unique feature about the white sponge, and it's very important, is when you are using sponges to sand, especially in the woodworking industry, in between coats of finish, sponges tend to shed a little bit, meaning some of the grain is going to come off. That usually filters out, gets blown off, what have you. But there are times when that sponge grain will get stuck in the finish. If you're using a black sponge and you finish that, you'll actually sometimes see a little black speck in the finish. A lot of people don't realize it, but that's actually the grain from a sponge. This was created for that reason in mind, especially on light finishes, things like that. This is really good because the grain on this white aluminum oxide sponge is transparent. And because you can see through it, if it happened to shed into your finish, you wouldn't see it. This sponge is offered in fine and super fine. The fine is going to leave a scratch between a 180 and 220 grit. And then the superfine is going to leave a scratch typically between 320 and 400 grit. Applications for this in the woodworking industry is sanding in between coats of paint or primer with the fine, and typically 1/2 inch superfine will be used in between coats of Silver, Silver, in between coats of Silver on stain finishing. It can also be used in automotive. It'll obviously contour very well with a car. You can use it wet, wash it out, blow it off. So it does have applications for automotive. You can use this on any type of substrate other than stone and glass. Stone and glass always require the use of a silicon carbide grain, not aluminum oxide. Other than that, it's very versatile and covers a lot of applications for you and has that very unique property of a see-through transparent grain.